If you have not yet done so, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phones may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is on the call. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. I will go through a roll call for each vote. Commissioner Bondima.
Yes, Bondima.
Commissioner Brooks.
Brooks here.
Commissioner Chinya.
Present.
Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner Horwitz. Commissioner McFadden.
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Sally.
Present.
And I am here. We are 9 here with 1 absent. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So move, McFadden.
Thank you, Commissioner McFadden. Is there a second?
Second, Bondima.
Thank you, Commissioner Bondima. All in favor? Commissioner Bondima?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chinya?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz? Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. The motion passes with 9 in favor and 1 absent. I would like to now ask Commissioner Brooks if he would read the recognizing of the passing of some of our city schools employees and students.
Great. So Warren Glass started his career with city schools on September the 2nd, 2006, where he served the staff and students for 14 years and 6 months as a temporary professional too. Assistant HR pre-enrollment and supervisor, pre-employment and supervisor, pre-employment under the Human Capital Office. He later served as a trainer, maintenance and operations, and a supervisor, mailroom under the chief of operations until he retired on November the 30th, 2019. Mr. Glass unfortunately departed on March 24th, 2022, and he will be missed greatly by his family, friends, and city schools. Kathleen Steinbow, schools on February 27th, 2006, where she served the students for 16 years and 1 month as a custodial worker 1, 12 at Facilities North, Cluster 2, and Mary Ann Winterling Elementary. Ms. Steinbaugh unfortunately departed on March 26th of this year and will be missed greatly by her family, friends, and city schools. Braylon Gannon was an exemplary 9th grader at Carver Vocational Technical High School. He left a meaningful impression on the hearts of his teachers and his peers during the short time he spent at Carver. He was a well-rounded student who did his best to succeed in all of his classes. Even though he was playful at times, his intentions were always to be a respectful and responsible young man. Braylon was a friend to everyone. He was a social butterfly who made meaningful interactions in the hallway, the cafeteria, as well as the classroom. Braylon's passing has left a void at Carver, an unreal feeling that would linger for a very long time. The memories we have of Braylon will always be dear to our hearts, forever a Carver Bear. It is also with our deep regret we inform you of the passing of Velma B. Evans. Miss Evans began teaching in city schools in 1951 and later began working with preschoolers. In the early 1960s, she became a teacher in Project Hope, an early school admissions project that was aimed at culturally disadvantaged children, according to a 1963 Sun story. The project aimed to teach basic learning skills that were necessary for survival and growth in the first years of school. At Mount Royal Elementary School, Miss Evans was a senior member of a 4-person teaching team that included an assistant teacher, teacher's aide, and a volunteer. Their mission was to give maximum amount of attention to each child. Ms. Evans later was one of the early teachers to join the Head Start program in city schools and was then promoted to the old school headquarters building on 25th Street, where she was a supervisor of elementary grades, and finally as a program director of early school admission program and was a Title I coordinator. She retired in 1978. Ms. Evans unfortunately departed on March 14th of this year, and will be missed greatly by her family, friends, and city schools. Would everybody just take a moment of silence to recognize the passing of these important people to our district? Thank you. I pass it back to you, Chair Richardson.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Is there a second?
Second, Roberts.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. All in favor, Commissioner Bondima,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chinya,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz, Commissioner McFadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
and I am in favor. This motion passes with 9 in favor and 1 absent. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved, Chinya.
Thank you, Commissioner Chinya. Is there a second?
Second read.
Commissioner Reed. All in favor, Commissioner Bondima,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chinya,
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
and I am also in favor. This motion passes with 8 in favor and 1 absent. The Spring Board Youth Forum intended for Monday, April the 25th was postponed. The decision to postpone the event was difficult. The Youth Forum is an incredibly important event for the district, and it is one of our favorite ways to interact with our students, hear their voices, and let them know how the district can better support them and to hear from them on what they need to be supported on. However, we felt that it was equally important to prioritize the needs and wants of our students that our students have previously expressed. To ensure our students have the most productive and insightful event possible, it is crucial that we take more time to gather resources and effectively address our students' concerns. As we take more planning time to attract a wider cross-section of students from the district, we hope that you will accept our sincerest apology for any inconvenience this may have caused. We look forward to seeing our students very soon for the Youth Forum when it is rescheduled. Stay tuned. Thank you. We will now have the honoring of our retirees for 30+ years of service, done by our Commissioner Sally.
Great, thank you so much. So I'd like to recognize Antoine McIver, began working with Baltimore City Public Schools on February 4th, 1985. He most recently served as a supervisor, school projects and facilities, the Southeast Cluster 4. Mr. McIver faithfully served the children of Baltimore City Public Schools for 37 years and 1 month. Congratulations. Chair?
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. Is there a motion to approve the personnel matters?
So moved, McFadden.
Thank you, Commissioner McFadden. Is there a second?
Second, Roberts.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. All in favor? Commissioner Bondima?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chinya?
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
And I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 8 in favor and 1 absent. I will now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for CEO comments.
Thank you very much, Chair Richardson. It is now my pleasure to invite Sarah Deal, our interim Chief Human Capital Officer, for this evening's PEP agenda.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm echoing. Good evening, everyone. Here's tonight's PEP. It is recommended that Camilla Reese, currently IEP Team Associate of Baybrook Elementary Middle, be appointed Educational Specialist 2, TSI Program Manager, tiered system support effective May 2nd, 2022. It is recommended that Michael Turlick, currently Education Program Specialist at the Maryland State Department of Education, be appointed Educational Specialist 2, Mathematics Initiative, Mathematics Education, effective May 9th, 2022. It is recommended that Tiana Lanier, currently Principal, Elementary Middle Virtual Learning Program West, be appointed Director Virtual Learning, the Chief Academic Office, effective April 27, 2022. It is also recommended that Maureen Gershberg, currently Temporary Worker 4 in Planning, be appointed Director, School and Facilities Planning, effective April 11th, 2022. And finally, it is recommended that Alan Russell, currently founder and CEO of the Russell Group, be appointed Director, IT Technical Support Services in Technical Support Services, effective May 9th, 2022. Congratulations, everyone. Dr. Sneeson?
Thank you very much, Sarah. I would like to begin this evening by recognizing some outstanding work by our students and staff. The Lyric Baltimore recently announced the 12 finalists in their 5th annual Dream Big contest. This contest, which kicked off in January on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, asks Baltimore area students in grades 5 through 12 to consider their big dreams for their lives, their communities, and their schools. Then students submit a 1-page poem, a 300-word essay, or a 1-minute video bringing that dream to life. Well, I am very excited to announce that 5 city school students were named finalists in the Dream Big contest. We'd like to offer congratulations to Fatu Juf, who is an 11th grader at Baltimore City College, Asia Webster in grade 9 at Baltimore City College, Jemiah Anderson, grade 5 at Dallas F. Nicholas Elementary School, and Joy Onchera, grade 6, the Bel Air Edison School. Finally, Carrie Snowden, grade 11 at the Baltimore Design School. For the first time, a Believer Award was presented to an educator in the Baltimore community for dedication to arts education and unwavering commitment to students. This year's Believers Award, and let me tell you, if there's anybody who embodies a believer, it is our very own Chanel Howard, who our fine arts coordinator for Baltimore City Schools. So I want to give a heartfelt congratulations to Chanel and all of our student contestants. Congratulations. And now I want to turn to what is a troubling but a very important issue. And that is the increase in violent incidents in our schools. Unfortunately, while the stabbings at Mervo were particularly alarming, and even the concept of students bringing loaded guns to school is unthinkable, the fact is that both things occurred in the same school in a single day. And the reality is that a pattern of increasing behavioral challenges this year is not limited to Mervo or even just high schools or even just Baltimore City. This is occurring across our state and nationwide. And I will say it is not just students, because last week there was a fight at one of our middle schools that involved not just students, but primarily adults. I think it's important to understand that these incidents are not unique to Baltimore City. In the past year, violence, threats of violence have dramatically increased across our city, our state, and our country. People of all ages are fighting on airplanes, supermarkets, and while gun violence continues to rise in Baltimore and other cities nationwide. In the case of our schools, our culture and climate efforts have been made much harder by student feelings of isolation, disconnection from school, fear and frustration resulting from the pandemic. But at the end of the day, our schools are part of this ecosystem. And this school year, that ecosystem has seen increasingly more challenges, as well as the recognition that this problem did not originate schools. It's a societal issue that is coming into our schools. Nevertheless, it's our responsibility as a district and a school community to keep our schools, our students, and our staff safe. That requires action on both the physical security of our buildings and the culture and climate within those buildings. In the area of long-term physical security, additional police resources have been allocated for arrival, dismissal, and throughout the day at key points throughout the school and in the community. And school police will be coordinating with Baltimore City Police Department as needed. I want to give a shout out to Chief Ham and all of our school police. Chief Ham, even earlier today, was meeting for a cross-city meeting around how we can better make sure that we are addressing issues of school violence, youth violence. And then we have also increased staff support to address the security of access doors. The operations team is currently exploring and moving on door security hardware and mechanisms, first for high schools with several options, from basic alarm systems to door egress locking arrangements, as well as additional monitoring CCTV systems and sensors. Decisions on these systems will be made shortly after further discussion with the school administration and city building code regulatory team on feasible door system solutions. On this past legislative session, the Maryland Healthy Schools funds were increased to support school safety efforts. These funds, including Maryland school safety dollars, will be used to help to advance equipment and infrastructure improvements for the exterior doors, with a plan for all high schools first, and then we will have additional planning for K through 8 schools. I think it's important to note that this funding is key because options for high schools, in particular exterior doors, range in cost from $250,000 to more than $1 million per school, based on whatever the system requirements and needed facility upgrades will be. The timeline for construction and implementation will also vary based on the selected door security system. In the area of social emotional care, within the immediate aftermath of the incidents at Mervo, the district sent a crisis response team to support students and staff in processing their experiences and to address immediate mental health needs. I want to give a special thanks to our crisis response teams who have been doing amazing work given some of the challenging circumstances and events our school communities have been facing. We also sent district staff to support school-based staff in holding restorative circles with students and most immediately affected by the incident. Moving forward, we will continue to support the school in reviewing and bolstering its plans for improving culture and climate, as well as attending to the social emotional needs and development of students. We will also be making more safety screenings a regular feature of our security protocols at our high schools. Finally, I do want to point out that our work on culture and climate and the need to have a culture climate reset includes not only our schools, but our entire school community, students, staff, families, volunteers, and community organizations. We need to remind everyone that the establishment and maintenance of caring relationships, these are the caring relationships that schools have spent so much time building, so much emphasis on, that those caring relationships really rely on the clear, consistent communication and application of appropriate consequences for negative behavior. Most importantly, we need to recognize that this is not just a school problem. Violent behavior is a society-wide problem, and part of that solution relies in the ability for us to establish caring relationships. I do want to point out that on a number of occasions where guns have been found, where confrontation violence has been averted, it really has had that prevention at its core has been relationships. Students who report seeing things that are questionable or hearing things about a fight or a confrontation that's about to occur or plan to occur. That I want to emphasize that the strength of the relationships between students and adults, between administrators and school safety personnel, those are all part of what undergirds our ability to continue to avert these incidents, but also our efforts to stem incidents long before they happen. We are committed to keeping our schools, our students, and our staff safe. And we need the help of everyone who cares about our young people to do it. And Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. We will now hear a presentation on new charter applications for school year 23-24 opening.
Good afternoon. Angela Alvarez, the Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives, and I'm joined by Kim Coleman.
Hi everyone, I'm Kim Coleman, Specialist in the Office of New Initiatives.
All right, and so tonight we're going to share for information the application, the summary of the applications. This year we only received actually one application for opening new charter schools. And so can we go to the next slide? So this aligns to board priority 6 around city schools to increase the number of educational programming of all types and levels throughout the city while ensuring that all schools, including charters, guarantee a high quality educational experience. And so Kim is going to kind of go over the process and the rest of the steps. Just want to emphasize again, this is for information. The board will not vote until June 9th. And so this is just our place where we kick it off for members of the public, that we have an application and what the application is. So that's the purpose of tonight's presentation. I'm going to go over and turn it over to Kim to kind of walk us through.
Thank you. So first we're going to talk about who participates in the review process. There are 3 main players in this lengthy process, and it starts with the Charter and Operator-Led Schools Advisory Board, an internal external stakeholder group that advises the CEO on issues related to our operator-led schools. And a group of designees from this group form an initial review panel to conduct a thorough review of the applications, to conduct interviews with the applicants, and to provide advice to the CEO. And then based on that advice, those recommendations, the CEO through her staff might ask for supplemental information. And in the development of the CEO's initial recommendation, she finalizes her recommendation to the Board of School Commissioners based on her review of the application, advice from the advisory board, the applicant's testimony at the board work session, and any supplemental information provided from the applicant throughout the process. And finally, the Board of School Commissioners has ultimate deciding authority on each applicant and makes its decision based on a review of the application, the extent to which the application meets the board's priorities, which we'll review as a reminder in a moment, the applicant's testimony at the work session, and supplemental information provided afterward, and the CEO's recommendation. Here's a high-level overview of the process. A lot goes into each of these, but on an ongoing nature, there are prior applications available for applicants to review, and potential applicants can schedule appointments with staff as requested. We hosted 3 technical assistance sessions this year throughout December and January. And those resources are also located on the City Schools website. Present at each of those technical assistance sessions are current operators who have recently gone through the process and had schools approved. By February 4th, letters of intent are due for applicants to express their intent to submit an application on the deadline, which is if there's a window on March 3rd between 9 a.m. and noon. At that time, COMAR clock starts ticking. We have 120 days as a district board does to render a decision. And then in those first few days between March 4th, staff does a technical review of the application to ensure it has all required components prior to beginning the review process. And then between March and April, the advisory board begins their review of the applications and they schedule the applicant interviews. And that brings us to this point where we bring a summary, a high-level summary of the applications to the board. The applicant materials have been shared for review. And we have a date wrong here, excuse me, we'll have to fix this. The CEO's preliminary recommendation is communicated at the May 17th date. My apologies. This is the time when the applicants present at the public work session and they can take questions directly from the board and the CEO. They have up until May 27th to submit any supplemental information. Then the board vote occurs on June 9th, at which point the CEO's final recommendation is also communicated in writing with applicants. So we'll do a quick review of the board priorities. In 2022, the board's priorities for opening new charter and contract schools are specifically prioritizing applications that propose to convert an already existing underperforming school to a charter program with an accelerated learning model. Additional consideration is given for conversion applicants who are also proposing to implement a high-performing charter in areas of the city where the model doesn't currently exist and where that operator has a track record of success already. Conversion applicants who are looking to convert a high school that takes in students below grade level and provides access to rigorous content that prepares them for high school, college, and career. A conversion model that is dual language or late language immersion. Advanced high school programming, including early college high school, where students can earn their associate's degree alongside their high school diploma or IB programs. And lastly, a conversion model that would be proposing a career readiness program that meets one of the district's identified CTE needs and would lead to certifications and credentials. So we're going to go right into the application. As Angela mentioned, we only received one application this year, and that's from Shining Willow Charter School, Inc. They are proposing a K-8 charter school that would have enrollment of 208 students at full capacity, opening at 104. They are expressing an openness to other areas of the city, but the proposal is for Northeast Baltimore. And this would be to operate a charter school guided by the core principles of public Waldorf education, using an arts integrated, cross-curricular, and developmentally appropriate approach to learning. The Waldorf pedagogy engages and integrates cognitive, physical, emotional, social, and the creative imaginative self. And these are traditionally private school options. There's presently only one urban Waldorf-inspired charter in the U.S. There are other public Waldorf-inspired models in non-urban areas of the city. And that is the only application that we received this year.
Do any of my board colleagues have questions? Okay. They're ready. Okay, we're at 5:37. So I want to go to our next presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez and staff for giving us that information. And we look forward to, what is it, the May 17th? That's the work session around this. So colleagues, be mindful of that. That's coming up. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner McFadden. We will now hear an information item on policy ADG, sustainability, first reader.
Hi, good evening. Oops. Sorry, having a moment here.
Oh, okay. Okay, we hear you, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. One moment. Okay, is that coming through okay?
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners and the public. I'm Joanna P. Sunier, and I coordinate our sustainability efforts here at City Schools. And tonight I am presenting the, I'm sorry? Okay. Tonight I'm presenting the update to policy ADG, sustainability, which was first passed in 2016. And so we are going through an update process. I'd like to pause for a moment and just get us all on the same page about sustainability first. I like to think about it as the word itself. What is our ability to sustain both ourselves and the planet and the people today, as well as into future generations? So if we look at the three primary pieces of the people, the planet, and prosperity, we really want to think about where is that sweet spot of meeting all of those needs, as I say, not only for today, but for future generations as well. The sustainability policy meets all of the board priorities in one form or another. So I really think that this is a very broad policy that encompasses lots of different work, lots of different people, can really be a big tent and can help us achieve all of the goals that the board has set. When we were looking at updating the policy, we really had three overarching goals. The first is to decrease the environmental burdens and increase the environmental benefits in a racially equitable way in support of our equity policy. The second piece is to improve the process of how we develop and monitor our sustainability goals. And the third is that we need to comply with some new state regulations regarding our electricity use and reporting. So to the first piece about equity, we know that negative environmental burdens are disproportionately borne by people of color and people with lower incomes, and that is true in Baltimore City, it is true in Maryland, it's true in the Mid-Atlantic, in the country, and the world. And that has been throughout time, unfortunately, and with climate change, it is ever more present. And so it is our duty and our role to try and disrupt that. And that can take lots of different forms, but is something that is really an overarching piece of the policy and of this work. We also wanted to reflect on other pieces. So, you know, this has been an opportunity to build awareness about this work at City Schools and presenting in front of lots of different groups, talking with lots of different people. Some people are well aware of this work. Other people, it's brand new to them. We are trying to figure out, and in talking with people, what are we doing well? What can we improve? What issues are most important to our many, many stakeholders? And then how do we compare and get ideas and be inspired by other school districts, some of whom are ahead of us, some of whom are behind us? And then are we in compliance with any state, local rules, regulations that may have changed since the policy was first passed? So the policy has 4 sections. There is the policy itself, and then there are 3 supporting regulations, one of sustainability, one of energy, water, and resource conservation, and one for green cleaning. The policy also calls for a sustainability plan, and that is a staff level document. It does not come to the board for approval. And This graphic shows the 6 areas in our current plan that grew out of the first policy. So when this policy is updated, we will revisit the plan. We will work with all the departments within city schools with stakeholders to update this. And so these categories may change, may be reworded, may be reworked, but I wanted to describe and sort of show that this is how the work on a day-to-day basis is really broken up and can cover all of these different issues. So to summarize the key changes to the policy, the first regarding equity, in a number of places we added language committing to ourselves to address environmental injustice. And in doing that, we thought about, and some of the questions that have been asked of us are, how can we tailor our support and our services and our work to students who are most impacted by environmental injustice? And that's a tough question for us, and is something that really to date, the work has taken 2 approaches, neither of which have really focused on this question. The first part of the work has either been district-wide. How do we make sure that opportunities are equitably distributed across the district? So it could be a 9th grade biology stream study experience that we're working on trying to get to every single school so that it doesn't vary based on where you go and whether your teacher or your principal thinks that this is an important piece. The other side of it is responding to requests for assistance. So we have a lot of schools that have green teams, teachers that are asking for support, and so that is in response to school-based requests. There are situations where we have been able to include community conditions factored into decisions, particularly when we've applied either for grant or other support that has guided this work. We've been able to say, what areas of the city may need this more than others or may benefit from a certain program. So going forward, we are committed, and we have spoken with the Office of the Whole Child about finding ways to look at some of the health data and other information from the city at large and figure out better ways that we might direct these services to schools that are most impacted by injustice. The other piece of key change has to do with process. So we have moved away from having a standalone committee to having a more integrated goal setting process. And so we have added language about incorporating sustainability priorities into those goal setting and the decision-making processes. So the proposal is that myself, as the sustainability analyst, will then meet with chiefs or their designees through the goal setting process to determine both short and long-term sustainability goals that then go into that sustainability plan, and that becomes the document that we report on annually to the board and to the public on our movement along towards achieving those goals. And that plan must be updated every 3 years. The key change is to be in compliance with state law. So there is a new law that the Maryland Energy Administration is coordinating. We have been in conversation with them, and we need to share data about where our electricity is coming from renewable or non-renewable sources, and share that with the state. And so we added language to that. And I want to just call your attention to the fact that there could be more that comes down the pike in the coming years, because the Climate Solutions Now bill passed at the legislature. This is becoming more important at the legislative level. And so there may be things that filter down to the school district in coming years. Additional changes that we added are adding language about tracking greenhouse gas emissions. We want to try and encourage nature connections among students. We realized we had a lot of things about, environmental literacy and sort of knowing, as we talked about with the water quality, what macroinvertebrates are there and what's the water pollution and what's a tree, and, identifying trees by leaves and all these things very, academically focused, which are very, very important, but also having room and promoting the connection to nature that is really important and can be transformative for people, and that we have some students who don't feel that way about nature, and how can we find ways to promote that awe and appreciation and enjoyment of being outside and nature. And then we added some language about more connections on the career and higher education side for the green economy. So one thing that has been asked is about the sustainability budget. And right now, the sustainability funding is spread out across the district. So we do not have, there's my position, which is within operations. And then we have lots of different programs. And so this chart is a sample. This is by no means all of the programming and all of the funding that is being allocated to this, but is an example, shows the different sources where some of the funds may come from. So in some cases, we have departmental budgets where we may provide training for staff on systemic professional development days. Or we may, food and nutrition services buying compostable lunch trays. We may have miscellaneous funds. We're in the midst of a large energy and lighting retrofit project right now, which will lower our energy consumption. We have lots of different grants and donations that have come in from government agencies, from nonprofit organizations, corporate foundation that may support our net zero energy schools. They may support field experiences, our green teams, etc. And then we have some partnerships, for example, with local government. So the city of Baltimore collects recycling from schools at no cost to us. Now, I will say that program is struggling right now because the City Department of Public Works is struggling with staffing and equipment. We are hoping that comes back on track next school year. So just to recap, these are just examples and demonstrate how the funding is really dispersed. And as of right now, we don't have a budget per se for sustainability. Speaking about stakeholder engagement for this process, about updating the policy, I made a number of presentations to lots of different organizations, spoke individually with people, put it in newsletters, updates. We had a variety of different ways that people could give their comment. We did hit some obstacles between COVID-19, survey fatigue, generalized, situation that everyone is in right now. However, we were able to get some good feedback from people. And I won't read everything on this slide, but these are some of the comments that came in, sort of grouping them into the categories of people giving us their thoughts about how we might strengthen our work. And I will say most of the comments have to do with sort of the implementation side of it, as versus large, like the policy should be rewritten, or this sentence should be removed, or anything like that. So, but these were all very thoughtful commentary about things that we are doing well and things that we can really improve on. So we had 571 people so far respond to a survey. We had a mix when grouped together, sort of three broad categories of students, staff, and partners and families. And 35% of all of the respondents are Hispanic and Latino, 28% are white, 16% are African American. The folks at the bottom, I just wanted to give them a shout out for helping to administer the survey and share it with their schools and families and partners as well. One key piece of the survey was asking people what were their top 3 priorities or most important things that they saw about sustainability at city schools. And this graph represents the feedback into those 3 categories. So in the furmost left blue, the students, the top priorities they spoke about or chose were mental health, trash recycling, and climate change. Staff, the top priorities were mental health, trash recycling, and spending time outdoors in safe, welcoming spaces. Partners, the top priorities were mental health, nutrition and food education, and gardening. And then all respondents together are those top three: the mental health, nutrition, and trash. So I want to take just one moment to go through very quickly about the rationale for this work, and just to say that we have a significant environmental impact, both as an organization in Baltimore City. We own hundreds of buildings, millions of square feet, thousands of students and staff, lots of energy, lots of trash. We can do better. We can run them better. We can reduce our footprint and our impact. And then on the student and staff side, we really owe it to everybody to have our buildings be welcoming, safe, healthy places for everyone, staff and students, to be. And there is so much evidence of the impact of all of these pieces on student well-being, mental health, physical health, and academic outcomes. And the research, as I say, has lots of different pieces, whether you are someone who, is looking at teacher retention, if you're looking at rates of asthma, if you're looking at civic engagement, if you're looking at critical thinking, there are lots of places where this work can help move that forward. So we have come a long way. We've made great progress since 2016. We have a long way to go. This map is just a sample of schools that have either received the Green Healthy Smart Challenge, which is a program we operate in partnership with the City Office of Sustainability. So it's schools that have green teams and activities, and also schools that are Maryland Green Schools. And I will say that we just had 9 schools learn on Earth Day last Friday that 2 new schools and 7 renewals of Maryland Green Schools. So we know we still have our work cut out for us, and we want to keep equity front and center, and we want to figure out in that sustainability plan how we can set aspirational but also achievable goals for the district. So thank you very much, and I welcome any questions that you have.
Commissioner Reed?
Thank you very much for the presentation, especially the part about being just and equitable. That's really important driver. Can't hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess my question to you is, in terms of the resources, the regulations and improvements, what are the requirements and costs? Is that going to be like a dramatic change, or?
You're referencing the electricity reporting?
Well, if you're gonna go through the whole process of changing the environment, making it better socially, and having better, I guess, governance or prosperity, there's got to be some financial acumen to it.
Yes.
So financial accounting to it. So I guess my question is, when you create these programs, in terms of looking at the changes, the growth, the betterment, there's got to be a financial aspect to it. And my question is, do we have numbers? Is there some estimate in terms of the costs, the timeline, that kind of thing?
Yes. So first of all, I apologize because I did not introduce 2 of my colleagues who are also here, Raj Bachubai and Sharika Bolden. So I'm going to give my answer to that question, and if they would like to add in, I invite them to do that. We have sort of some programmatic budgets of, we would be great to have another staff person working with us. We know that to get every 8th grader out to do a stream study, it's going to cost X amount, every 6th grader to do such and such. We do not have sort of a all-encompassing, like, let's add all of these wish list items up and figure out what that would cost and how we go about funding that. Honestly, it's been sort of a incremental steps forward, and maybe we're really getting to the point where we're embedded in enough that we can sort of start to be thinking in a bigger, more holistic way. And I think that the question that we had received about the budget is also getting at that, is like, how do we figure out a better way to track and monitor and therefore allocate resources to continue these programs on?
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions? And, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I will now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. I am going to pull item 8.01, revision to board policy, KCD, public gifts and donations, second reader. Also pulling 8.02. Say it again. Oh, 8.02, IKEB revised graduation standards, second reader. And the proposed academic calendar, 8.03, proposed academic calendar, school year 22-23, so that our student commissioner can vote on them. 11.01, CRC Salomon Inc. Help me with the screen if Darrell needs to pull something. 12.01, Snap-on Industrial. 12.02, Professional Development Services Ed Scale. 12.03, Goucher College.
The ones,
Would you say?
is that a continuation of you pulling 1201 and?
No, she's asking if anyone wants to pull
Okay,
any
you
of these
wanna
items.
Pull that
Thank
one?
you.
No?
Dr. Bondima, do you want that pulled?
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, cool. 13.01, Compliance Mate. 15.01, Cintas Corporation, Inc. And 18.01,
Yes,
Jackson.
pull 15.01, please. Thank you.
15.01,
Thank
okay.
you.
And what's your question?
My question is, I think the public it would be great to have the public listen and hear the nature of this particular procurement.
Okay,
Because
so
I
just for
think,
presentation?
yeah, I think it's helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
so if the staff is listening, just a quick presentation on that procurement item. 18.01, Jackson Lewis PC. And 18.02, Pessin Katz Law, PA. All righty. So we're going to go to public comment. We will now move to public comment. Speakers from recognized groups will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. We have Kimberly Mooney representing the Baltimore Teachers Union. Okay, our board executive is going to grab that video. So while we're waiting, we'll come back to the BTU. Is Sheila Billups available representing CAC? Is Ms. Billups on? Okay, do we have the, what'd you say? Oh, okay. No? Okay. Is the president of the PTA Council of Baltimore City, Deborah Demery, available?
Yes, I am.
There we go.
You got one at least. Okay. Can I just go ahead and start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Debbie Demery with the PTA Council of Baltimore City. And tonight I want to share some really exciting PTA news with you. Reflections is a national PTA arts program which provides opportunities for recognition and access to the arts. Each year, over 300,000 students, grade pre-K through 12, create original works of art in response to a student-selected theme. The program helps students explore their own thoughts, feelings, and ideas, develop artistic literacy, increase confidence, and find a love for learning that will help them become more successful in school and in life. The theme for school year 2021 and 2022 was I Will Change the World By. Student winners at the local level have the opportunity to move up through the council and the state level to the national level. This year, the PTA Council of Baltimore City moved 4 entries to the state level. All 4 artists are from Renaissance Academy High School. I would like to recognize Yaya Naji for her entry, The Place, Tyler McFadden for his entry, Hands, Corey Jones for his entry entitled Baltimore, and Kamisha Norman for her work, Looking Through the Window. At the state level, Corey Jones received Outstanding Interpretation and Kamisha Norman received the Award of Excellence, and both were moved to the national competition. The national winners will be announced in May. We would also like to acknowledge our Reflections Chair, Ms. Deborah Wallace, who worked extremely hard with these young artists to be sure all deadlines were met, and we congratulate them all, and we wish Corey and Kamisha luck in the next round. So if we could just kind of give them a round of applause, I really would appreciate it, because they've worked extremely hard and they really deserve this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Deb. Do we have Sheila Billups, Miss Billups, or anyone from CCAC here with us? And Christian, if you hear me, have you teed up the video from Kimberly Mooney with the BTU?
Hello, sorry, I'm just joining. I had the opportunity to check the video, and there were it was password protected. So I think while we wait, we can move on to some other ones. Although I just went upstairs, so if you move past the recognized groups, I can just move to the 2 public comment signups that we had.
Yes, so why don't we do that? We have gone through the special sign-up groups. Miss Billups or CCAC we've called for twice, so I don't think that they're with us this evening. And Kimberly Mooney's was the only other presentation, so you can take us to public comment.
Okay, great. First, and Ms. Mooney, I don't know if you're online, if you're available, but if you are on the meeting, feel free to jump in. Our first public comment sign up is Ms. Julia DeBuslo, commenting live. Julia, are you available?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Dr. Santulises. My name is Julia DeBuslo, and I am the Director of Arts Every Day, a nonprofit partner to the district and organizer of the Baltimore Arts Education Initiative, otherwise known as BAEI. I am here on behalf of the Budget and Policy Working Group of BAEI this evening. We want to begin by thanking you and Dr. Santulises for prioritizing the arts in your ESSER plans and in the FY23 budget guidance. We do have a few recommendations to share for sustainability regarding those 2 pieces. The first is a recommendation regarding the FY22 ESSER allocation of $200 per student to support arts and athletics programming. I'm hearing from many principals that they are having difficulty spending down funds before the encumberment date of June 30th. There are 2 big issues at play here. One is around the procurement caps. Many program and supply and equipment vendors have met their procurement cap under their existing contract with the district. We ask that the board approve procurement adjustments as soon as possible so that schools are able to use that funding for arts programming. The second piece that is at play here is around timing. ESSER allocations for large enrollment schools were enormous in some cases. Since funding is one-time and cannot be used to support staff, we ask that you extend the spending deadline through June 30th of 2023. This will ensure funds are used with intention and as complement to the expanded staffing funds that are being made available within the FY23 budget. And so the second set of recommendations has to do with the FY23 budget guidance. We also submitted these recommendations in writing to the board and Dr. Santelises on April 18th. So as many know, during the past few decades, arts programs have frequently been discontinued when school administration or systemic practices change. This results in our present situation, a severe lack of equitable fine arts opportunities for students and substantial financial waste on the purchase of large equipment, instruments, and other types of things that are necessary for fine arts programming. In order to encourage preservation and sustainability in investment, we strongly encourage you to consider implementation of the following. The first recommendation is to lock newly created and existing fine arts positions within the school-based budgeting process. The second is to develop a central systemic plan for staffing across all arts disciplines and across all schools. The third is to make sure that there is proper and appropriate support for teacher recruitment. Right now, our Fine Arts Office does not have a list of vacancies separated by school and arts discipline. This information is really necessary in order to better assist schools with matching candidates to vacancies.
Julia, sorry to interrupt. Your time is up. If you can wrap up your thoughts.
Yes, thank you. And finally, we are always encouraging the increase of fine arts staffing to support the increasing number of arts educators and programs. And we hope that fine arts will be included within the 2022 CEO's Principals Institute this summer. Thank you very much, and sorry I went over my time.
Thank you. I did receive the video, so I'm going to go to our second and final public comment, Jocelyn Providence, and then I'll play the video from earlier. Jocelyn, are you available? I don't see her, so I'm going to go back to the video. And this was the video from earlier from the Baltimore Teachers Union.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Hescock-Mooney. I am the Teacher Vice Chair for the Baltimore Teachers Union, and I'll be delivering remarks today on behalf of the BTU. There are two topics I'd like to discuss. One is in response to the educator recruitment and retention presentation that was given a few weeks ago. There is a lot of national context about the drop in teacher preparation program enrollment and the potentially massive incoming set of resignations. But I did not see in the presentation anything about the city schools resignations in particular. So how many folks leave the system each year? Why did they leave? And it seems to me that it would be really hard to answer the question of why do people leave, because city schools doesn't currently conduct exit interviews with educators that leave the system. I think that doing so would provide crucial data in understanding our specific context around retention issues. And while exit interviews for hundreds of staff is a large labor-intensive list, a first step in that direction could be for human capital staff to identify several high-priority groups. So, for example, Black male teachers, special educators, and then setting a goal for interviewing a representative sample of the departing educators that fall into those groups. That could be one way to get some insight into why folks that fall into those groups leave. then also we could do some interviews with folks that are choosing to stay to know what we're doing right to retain the people that do choose to stay here in city schools. One of the recruitment strategies that we didn't see in the presentation was how to encourage city schools graduates to become city school teachers, in particular leveraging the Maryland Teaching Fellows Scholarship, which we really haven't seen promoted to high school juniors and seniors. Additionally, BTU did try to push for expanding eligibility in the program during the Blueprint for Maryland's Future legislative fight. And we could really collaborate with the board next session if you're interested to work on that. Currently, there's a heavy emphasis on standardized test scores and grades in order to get in right now. And that reliance as a gateway will just reproduce the racial and economic demographics of the current teaching force, which runs contrary to the legislation's stated goal of creating a more diverse set of teachers and leaders. So we recommend expanding the eligibility to include graduating in the top 15% of one's class, thus expanding the opportunity to segregated Black and Brown high school students who've been underinvested in and therefore may not achieve at the level of their more affluent peers, despite having the ability to thrive as future teachers. The scholarship program should also be extended specifically to address Black and Brown teachers who are either on conditional certificates or who are paraprofessionals. The other topic I'd like to talk about today is because at the end of March, we marked the National Transgender Day of Visibility. We know that there's been recent vandalism at Baltimore Safe Haven that may even rise to the level of potential hate crime. We also know that there have been murders of transgender and gender nonconforming individuals in the Baltimore area in recent years. And we also know that several state governments and school systems have recently passed laws and regulations limiting young people's access to affirming healthcare and curricular studies that are known to be life-saving and embracing of LGBTQ people. So because of that, we would like to call on the Baltimore City Public School System to offer both trans-affirming PD and PD on creating safe school environments for all LGBTQ+ students to its staff. We call on city schools to provide school leaders with training on the implementation of Board Policy JDB and the LGBTQ+ support protocol, as well as to provide a dedicated district point person for school leaders who need guidance implementing these policies. We urge city schools to conduct curriculum reviews to identify and address gaps and errors that disadvantage, erase, demean, or otherwise harm LGBTQ+ people. And finally, we urge city schools to take action to protect and include LGBTQ+ students and families by providing gender-neutral bathroom and locker facilities and gender-affirming after-school sports access at every school. Thank you for your time and for your attention.
All right, and again, that was the Baltimore Teachers Union public comment. I'm going to go back one more time. Is Jocelyn Providence available? Are you available? All right, Madam Chair, that was all the signups for public comment.
Thank you, Christian. Why my hand doubles? Okay. I want to call one last time for Kimberly Mooney representing. Oh, that was Kim. Okay. Sheila Billups with CCAC. Is Miss Billups here? Yeah, I'm seeing a feedback. What's the last 4 digits of that number? Oh,
Madam
we can't.
Chair, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I checked for her phone number earlier. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we're going to move on then. Thank you very much. Based on the public comments, are there any additional items that board members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Right. All right, so I'm going to go to the ones we've pulled. Is there a motion to approve items 8.01, 8.02, and 8.03?
So moved, McFadden.
Thank you, Commissioner McFadden. Is there a second?
Second. Roberts.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. All in favor? Commissioner Bondima?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks? Commissioner Chinya?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz? Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
I am in favor. I want to go back. Is Commissioner Brooks with us? Okay, that motion passes with 8 in favor and 2 absent. We also pulled 15.01. Is the staff available for a quick presentation on that item?
Yes, Commissioner. This is Blaine Lipsky with Operations. I would like to provide a little background on this request for procurement. Back in 2021, the General Assembly identified this bill as House Bill 205. This bill basically requires that each school local board of education ensure that each public school provide at no charge to the students menstrual hygiene products via dispensers in the women's restrooms at the school. And in regards to that, a public middle or high school must install menstrual hygiene product dispensers in at least 2 women's restrooms on or before October 1st, 2022, and in all women's bathrooms on or before August 1st, 2025. Now, a public elementary school must install menstrual hygiene product dispensers in at least 1 restroom on or before October 1st, 2022. The state may reimburse the local school board for the cost of purchasing and installing the dispensers required by this bill. This bill took effect in July of 1st, 2021. So in order for us to be compliant, we were asking to proceed with this to install and maintain the calendar timeline that's been established by the House bill.
Commissioner Reed, did you have any further thoughts?
Yeah, I guess, I think it's important for families to know that the state and the House have basically come up with the process where they install it. But I think in the out years, after the first year, it falls on the schools. I guess Dr. Washington can correct me and add more to it. She was really helpful in the operations committee meeting. What I gathered from the meeting was that in the out years, after the first year, it falls upon the schools in the district to maintain the process. So I think it's important for the schools to know and the families to know how important it is for the process. I'm not conversant at all in terms of this realm, but it sounds like it could be really important for the female students, the lady students.
So just to provide additional feedback on that, Commissioner, the schools, the responsibility does fall on the schools in order for them to replenish the item. So when we go through the budget process for schools, we will make sure that we help schools budget appropriately for this particular item, which means that the district would give additional funds to the schools for them to support them with this item. And also the operations team will also support the schools the same that we do with water. So if there are any concerns with the schools working directly with the vendor, then we'll provide consultations with the school and also work with the vendor to make sure that the schools have the appropriate quantity of the item that they need. And one of the reasons why the responsibility is sitting on school side is because each school may use the item differently. And so instead of the district trying to, keep up with that, the inventory of the quantity of the item, the hygiene item that is being distributed, the schools are responsible and they work directly with the vendor. And so that's one of the reasons why after the first initial installation, it is then the school's responsibility to work with the vendor and get additional quantity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bondima.
Thank you, and I want to thank Commissioner Reed for bringing it to attention to the public because we did have a lengthy discussion on it. But I also want to mention that being a member of the MAID board, when this came before MAID back in, 2021, I think, yeah, it was a lengthy conversation with representatives from board members all across the state of Maryland. And it was more of an information session because people who did not understand the importance of having those machines in the bathroom. We had to explain to them why. And I want to thank Baltimore City Public School, and I want the public to know that we want to thank them for, this is something that should have happened years and years and years ago. And some people might remember the reason why we need to have it there. And I think that it's very, very important. And I want to thank you for doing this. Because it's been needed forever. And we will think of a way to pay for it, I'm sure, in the future. But I want to thank you again for allowing this to happen in our public school, from elementary school all the way through high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I want to thank the staff, Blaine and Lynette. Thank you very much. So is there a motion to approve? Oh, yeah. Is there a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda? We're going to lump 15 back in.
So moved. Reed.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Is there a second?
Second, Bandima.
Second, I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Bandima. All in favor? Commissioner Bandima?
Yes.
Commissioner Chinya?
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
And I am in favor. Is Commissioner Brooks back? All right, then this motion passes with 7 in favor and 2 absent. Board committee reports. Is there an update from either policy or ops? Any of the members on policy or the chair of ops? No? Okay. And for policy? No? Okay. All righty. Go ahead.
I will just quickly say that we had a brief discussion about the conversion. We've been talking about this for some time, the conversion of board rules, and just making sure that we're on track to just having those updates. So there were a bunch of board rules, and now we're going through and reviewing them as now policy. So staff is still doing their work to condense and just support us with the calendar. So I think that that's important for the board to be aware of. And then also, colleagues, if you have ideas around compliance reporting, you should send those to the committee chair as well, just to update the chair, but so that staff can be made aware of what we're thinking as far as updates around some of our policies. A lot of the policies and the updates, some of them can be grouped together, some of the policies because they relate. So staff is definitely being intentional around that and making sure that we're not inundated with information, but we're receiving the most accurate and up-to-date information so that we can do our best job to govern the system. So just keep that in your brains as we move forward. But that's it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McFadden. I want to give the notice of our upcoming meetings. We have our spring board budget hearing, which is a virtual meeting on Tuesday, May the 2nd at 6 p.m. We have our Teaching and Learning Committee meeting, which is also a virtual meeting on Tuesday, May 3rd at 3:30 p.m. Our executive session meeting is going to be Tuesday, May 10th at 3 o'clock, followed by our public meeting, which will start at 5 p.m. on the same day, May 10th. Our spring board parent and family forum, which is a hybrid event, will be on Thursday, May the 12th, starting at 6 p.m. Our operations committee meeting, a virtual meeting, will be Tuesday, May 17th at 10:30 a.m. Our policy committee meeting, also a virtual meeting, will be on Tuesday, May 17th at 3:30. And our new charter applicant work session, also a virtual meeting, will be on Tuesday, May 17th at 6 p.m. We're at just before 6:30, which is unprecedented. I want to invite any of my board colleagues to engage in open conversation about any topic that you feel pressing or that you want to just bring up.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Really quickly, Chair Richardson.
go ahead.
I do want to just mention a meeting that Commissioner Sally and I had last week with Deborah Demry and the PTA Council of Baltimore City. I just want to take this opportunity for members of the public and our community members and all staff available that can hear to really get the word out about our PTAs and the involvement that our family members can have in those at the school level. And if there is support, if we can support in any way as commissioners or as a school system to make sure that folks are involved in the PTA Council of Baltimore City, I would really like that. So this is just a clarion call to all of our families and our parents. If you're not involved in the PTA at your individual school, get involved. And if your PTA isn't an active organization, talk to your school leaders, make sure that your voices are heard in that way, and then become a member of the PTA Council of Baltimore City. I think that's really important. It's really important that that organization is fortified and strengthened. And we certainly want to hear from our parents consistently. As members of the public know, members of our board have to be made up of parents as well. And so becoming a member of that PTA increases your ability to be an advocate, but certainly sets you up for an opportunity like this where very soon, if the mayor hasn't already done so, announce vacancies on the school board coming up. It is open, it's posted. So that's another thing. So if there are people out there that may be interested in serving on the Board of School Commissioners, a great way to start that is by becoming an active member of your school PTAs, really hearing the voices of the communities that you're already a part of, but then taking it to that next level and applying to serve on this body, because certainly our parents and our grandparents, they make the world of a difference and just will round our perspective in the work that we do. So I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted that particular organization tonight, and just calling more and more parents, especially with the issues that we're hearing, as Dr. Santelises mentioned earlier. We can't wait until events happen and then raise our voices. It's important that we're actively involved in shaping policy and shaping decisions that are made at the school level, so that then informs the work that we do.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McFadden. Commissioner Chenya.
This is really short, but tonight we had a little history lesson. I don't know if people realize that, but when we were acknowledging Velma Evans, she was one of the early pioneers in pre-kindergarten in Baltimore City. And I know that pre-kindergarten and kindergarten registration started this week, so I just want to use that as a reminder to folks to please get to your schools and register your children. And just remember that that there was a really great lady who helped us start to do that work in the public school setting in Baltimore.
Thank you so much for reminding us of that. Thank you. Commissioner
I just want
Bondima.
to add, thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner Chenya. My friend Rose McNeil said that she became a teacher in the very beginning. In those days, she was at Hilton Elementary School, I think. And because of this wonderful lady, that's why she became a teacher. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Commissioner Bondima. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, McFadden.
Thank you, Commissioner McFadden. Is there a second?
Second, Sally.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. All in favor, Commissioner Bondima?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenya?
Yes.
Commissioner Horowitz? Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
And I am in favor. That motion passes, 8 in favor and 2 absent. Good night, everyone. Have a lovely evening.